Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Digital Front Door. I'm Scott Benedict. For anyone who has visited an e-commerce website or maybe a mobile shopping app, many of us have seen elements of those shopping experiences where products will show up, and they might show up under the heading that says, people who search for this item also liked this item, or people who bought this item also bought this other item. And in many cases, these product recommendations are surprisingly accurate in the sense that they are appealing to that consumer, to their interests or what they're shopping for. In some cases, it might actually be kind of amazing in just how relevant those recommendations are to what that consumer is shopping for, and they might go ahead and add them to their digital shopping cart. Now, the technology behind these dynamic recommendations is known within e-commerce circles as dynamic personalization. And with the rise of personalization really dating back to the early days of digital retailing, you'd be surprised, perhaps, to know that it still remains underutilized, in some cases misunderstood aspect of modern retail. And so we thought it would be an interesting topic for today's episode. And I'm so happy to be joined by my good friend, Andy Wilson, and to maybe have this conversation and get under the hood a little bit about this topic of dynamic personalization and what it means to modern retail.
Well, Scott, thank you for inviting me in. It's exciting to be here with you. And I will tell all of our viewers today, if go check this guy out on LinkedIn. I will tell you, Scott has a world of knowledge in retail. He's done everything from Walmart, Sam's. He's worked in the digital space in so many other areas, and you're even continuing to grow your knowledge, expertise, and also he's a contributor here for Doing Business in Bentonville. So thank you very much for that, Scott. I think this is a very interesting conversation we're about to have.
Yes,
and I think it's dynamic, and that's the name of it. So so let's define this dynamic personalization, and we'll get into it for our viewers. And I will tell you, you're going to really enjoy this because it's so much information that Scott's going to share with us to get better at what we do in this whole space we call omnichannel.
I sure hope so. And so to answer your question, kind of let's start by defining when we talk about dynamic personalization, what are we talking about? And really, the textbook definition of it is the presentation of any website content, although it's more likely than not an item or a product, but it could be a service that is unique to an individual. So in other words, what I might see might be different than what you see, and it's rooted in both browsing and buying behavior. So what are the things that you're browsing for and searching for, and what products, what type of products that you actually buy. And so those activities are then subject to an algorithm that analyzes all of that behavior and then uses the behavior of people that tend to have certain interests to then control what is presented to other people who have similar interests or similar behavior. And so what it's basically saying is that the algorithm is studying the common elements of what people search for and buy, and say, hey, someone who looks like Andy, have interests like Andy, they liked these items, so let's show Andy those items. And again, it's become over the course of time surprisingly accurate in showing a consumer things that they are interested in as an individual rather than just what a retailer is wanting to show them.
So how does retailers use this? Okay, and I'd love to talk about some examples down to this, but this is just great technology.
It is, and it appears and kind of manifests itself in a couple of different places throughout a shopping experience. The most frequent one, the one we maybe think about, is on the product detail page, in which you're looking at an item As you scroll down the page, here are other relevant items that, to the example I gave at the opening, people who search for this item also liked this item or also bought this item. So the product detail page is probably the most common example. The search results page, where you're doing searches and you're looking for a specific product, then there'll tend to be personalized modules that will show you, again, things that others who have shopping habits like you, they might show it to them there. When you place an item into a shopping cart, that's when you may get a message or a depiction that says people who were interested in this item also bought these items. Or even in the checkout, once you're getting ready to check out and make a purchase online, personalization may recommend complementary items to you. So people who bought this item also bought this item because the algorithm says, hey, people also like this. Maybe it's a complementary item, or maybe it's something that adds on to the purchase that really completes your solution. You see a lot of personalization in email marketing, rather than showing or sending the same exact email and the same exact featured items to everybody. So a lot of retailers will use personalization technology to customize the actual product or group of products that they send to an individual. And then there is a very common tactic called a cart abandonment email. It's a subsegment of the email strategy for a lot of retailers, where you place an item into a basket, but then you don't check out. And cart abandonment emails are generally something that's triggered with automated technology that says, oh, Andy put this item into his cart a day ago and he hasn't checked out. And personalization will say, hey, Andy, here's this item that you have in your cart, and if you haven't checked out, maybe here's some other items that people like you bought instead of this item. And the inference is that if you're still not sure about this item, here's some other items that might be interesting to you. And if you're the retailer, it's like, well, if he's not sure about buying this item, maybe we can recommend these complementary items to him that maybe that will get him to go ahead and complete the purchase. I mean, I'll tell you, cart abandonment emails are very prolific and a very proven way to get a consumer who's kind of stuck at that point of placing the item in the
decision
cart,
making,
not making the decision, going ahead and checking out and completing the purchase, and it's proven. So those are a lot of the ways that you'll see personalization technology kind of manifests itself in the shopping experience.
So what is the big advantages for retailers?
Well, the biggest thing is it drives a conversion. It drives a purchase by showing a consumer items that they are more likely to be interested in based on their own behavior, the things that they have searched for, browsed for, and actually bought. You're likely of getting them to a complete purchase is higher with the use of this technology, because you're not just showing the same item to everybody, but you're showing them items that they are interested in. It's also been proven that statistically, the average order value, whether the dollar amount of a purchase or the average order size, the number of items in a basket, tends to go up with consumers who have engaged a personalization module or something about personalization. It tends to increase the size of the purchase, as well as increasing the likelihood of a purchase than when they are shopping and they're not encountering a personalized recommendation or a personalized message.
You know, I had this happen to me recently. What you're talking about, I was shopping for it's a cycling site, and I was shopping for some gear, and I looked at 2 or 3 items, but I did not place it in my cart. And then within about 10 minutes, I got a reminder that this is the gear you're looking at, and it sort of nudged me to make a decision.
Yes.
And then I did put an item in my cart, and about 10 minutes later, because I got distracted and calls and things, and I was sort of doing this while I was working, and so then that said, hey, your item's waiting for you in your cart.
Yeah.
The same company sent me 2 emails within a matter of a few minutes
Yeah.
about both. That's what you're talking about.
It is. And
It sort of bugged me a little bit.
Well, okay, so that's an interesting example because, as you can probably guess, there's a degree of automation involved in personalization. But the fact is that there are ways to tune or refine
That's my question.
automation, which I kind of said that's where you were headed.
Yeah.
And in the example that you gave, which was in a cart abandonment email, you got that message so darn quickly that it was kind of intrusive in this example. And so there are ways in which when that message comes can be studied and you can refine it. And I will tell you, when we created cart abandonment emails when I was with samsclub.com, we found that it's generally you wanted to do it in a day, not in an hour. Because you could be, in your example, you just got busy and hadn't had a chance to complete the purchase, or maybe you're considering something for future reference and you put it in the cart and you were going to come back to it, but you aren't going to come back to it in an hour, and maybe a day or 2 days might be better. So there's a way to control the automation that way. At the same time, there are what are called personalization strategies that you can employ. That in many cases, this personalization technology has got a kind of control center, kind of a dashboard where the merchant or the marketer can say, here's how I want the technology to be used. And it can be something where, I mentioned, you place an item into a shopping cart and the personalization recommends a complementary item. Well, you can adjust that strategy, and I'll give you an idea. So I used to buy electronics, and if we sold someone a big screen television like this one we have here in the studio, we might want to use some personalization technology to recommend a sound bar or recommend a wall mount so they can mount on the wall, or other things that were complementary items. If you bought an item that was for a specific car, let's say you bought a light bulb or an air filter or something, that now it's told me, hey, Andy's got this model of car. Personalization technology could say, hey, what are other frequently replaced items for that type of car, and let's use the personalization technology to recommend other things that Andy may need tires for that car, he may need an oil filter for that car, or he may need other things. But we use the technology, and a merchant can tune that technology to accomplish certain goals or things they think not only will drive sales, but are legitimately things that the consumer may be interested and need. And in your example with some of your cycling interests, where because you shopped or bought for certain items for your bike, it might get to know you well enough over time between what you search for and what you buy to say, you know what, Andy could probably use this. Andy could probably use that item. Or we notice that Andy is searching for new bikes, in which case maybe we shouldn't offer him things for his existing bike, but show him new bikes and things that are similar to what his interest is. But using and tuning that technology to accomplish a business goal is really kind of the neat things, instead of just turning it loose and assuming it's going to make big, good and authentic suggestions. You want it to kind of point it towards a business outcome. It hopefully pleases the consumer and offers those things that they're legitimately interested in.
Yeah, so there's a right way that is just down this path, and I can see the advantages very much as a retailer. Can do that. Now, so Scott, all this you've just talked about, how does AI play into this whole thing? Because we're reading so much about artificial intelligence today. It's becoming such a big topic.
It is.
Talk to us about that.
Well, here's the good news is personalization and personalization technology is an area where artificial intelligence can have an incredibly positive impact, because it kind of amplifies the power of those search algorithms to start to understand better what your interests are as a consumer. So I mentioned, I think previously, that in the early days of personalization technology, those recommendations might strictly be what you searched for or bought online and strictly on that retailer's website. It doesn't look at or didn't look at things like what did you also buy in their stores, what did you search for on other websites, and what news articles are you reading. All these things are other data points that artificial intelligence then tends to kind of bolster or amplify what goes into those personalization algorithms. And it says, now let's really understand better what Andy's interested in and make sure that what we offer him continues to get more to his taste, more to his interests, and shows him things that you're interested in or not. I was joking the other day about the fact that my children are now adults. They're 28 and 23, and I still occasionally get emails or social media posts for diapers and wipes and kids' toys, and that would have been great 20 years ago when they were children. But now that they're adults, don't send me those things. Yeah. Or send me women's swimwear, because you should be sending that to my wife, not to me. Right. And so artificial intelligence makes the personalization technology better and more relevant to you as an individual shopper, I think is the key takeaway.
So if you're a retailer today and you're reviewing us, listening in, how do retailers take full advantage of this potential that you're talking about?
It's interesting because, the first place people tend to go is on their website or on their mobile apps. And that's the starting point, and that's the genesis of where personalization technology began. But it's certainly not the only touch point. And so beyond what's being interacted with or perhaps promoted in a website experience, what's driving your email marketing? And are you using personalization to make a better email marketing ploy to a consumer? What is happening in social media posts? What is happening perhaps on a seasonal basis that says, it's come around to be spring, and instead of looking back, a few months, look back a year ago, and that's one of the things I found in the early development of the technology, is that it only look back a few weeks or a few months. And if you know anything about seasonal products, whether that's seasonal apparel or seasonal home products or seasonal outdoor decor, certain activities come around in an opportunity once a year. So don't offer me T-shirts and shorts in the fall because I was looking at them early in the summer. Yeah. Show me them the next spring when it comes back around time for me to be interested in those things. And so many retailers don't put that seasonal lens on how their technology takes place. And the last thing I'll tell you, Andy, is that I still don't see enough retailers pulling in-store purchase activities into their online activities and using all of those data points to give more personalized recommendations to their customers. And so they're not truly taking an omni-channel view of what the consumer is interested in, because that data maybe resides in different places. They're not pulling the data together to drive the search engine with all of that activity.
Yeah, one of the things that comes to my mind is that, so many larger companies tend to do a better job at this communication than I'll call mid-size companies. Yeah. And today, we still enjoy shopping at a local.
Yes.
We enjoy local.
Yes.
And local is big in our area, and it's in most areas now, which is wonderful. Yeah. You see that. And I enjoy going to the local coffee shops or local stores, and I enjoy that. But what I don't get is communication from them.
Right.
And will AI help that, you think? How do you see that medium-sized company with AI?
Well, that's an opportunity where if you're looking at it through the lens of what are people searching for, it's funny. I mean, my brother lives up in Wichita, Kansas, and he is executive director of the chamber in a community that's a suburb of Wichita. And he asked me kind of this question. And even if you're a one-store mainstream retailer, when a consumer goes online to search for a particular product, there's no reason why that main street retailer can't be the one who comes up in search results. And then artificial intelligence is then taking your interests and using it to bolster marketing activity that, again, is more relevant to what a consumer is shopping for. And that search on Google or another search engine is an additional data piece that now, because of the capabilities of AI, it can now inform not only what your search results are today, but can feed into personalization technology to where now it understands more about you in a positive way and can influence what recommendations you see either in social media or in marketing activities. And it can be as beneficial to a mom and pop Main Street retailer as it can be to Walmart, Sam's, or other really large companies. It makes that technology more effective, more personalized, and really creates a broader kind of canvas in which you can create those personalized recommendations for a consumer.
We've talked about products we're shopping for, and we're assuming they're in stock. What if they're not in stock?
Well,
how does that help?
Yeah, so part of the technology, and I mentioned the ability to kind of tune this, is in a scenario where the best, most logical item is out of stock, you can tune the technology to say, okay, well, what's the next best item? Because don't show me the item that's perfect for me, but I can't buy it.
Right, that's it. Yeah.
Show me then if that's out of stock, then automatically go to the next
options.
To the next item, or that item is not available at our closest location, but it's at the next closest store, or we can have it shipped to you. You want us to put it in your basket, and you can ship it to you from an online purchase. So those are just some of the ways that the technology can then ultimately get the consumer to the solution they want, whether it's a different product or a different way of buying the same product.
I just experienced something I thought was really cool. Back to your talking about out of stock. I went to a website of, I should give them credit, Specialized, their cycling website. Yeah. And I needed to, that's why I mentioned, because I need to give them credit here.
Yes.
And this is what they did. Yeah. I've never had this happen before, but I went to look at a bike.
Yeah.
A gravel bike, okay. So, and of course, I knew they were out of stock because someone had told me, but I wanted to go and look at and begin to research this bike. Because their competitors, many are in stock.
Yeah.
So here's what they said to me. I looked, and then it popped up and said, it was out of stock, not available. Immediately, I got an email from them. When I closed off, I got an email from them, and they said these things to me. We're not in stock of this item. This item will be in stock in August.
Yes.
And if you allow us, we'll send you an email letting you know this item is in stock.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. They went one step further.
Yeah.
They then said, thank you for visiting. We're seeing you at 15% off for a purchase, for your next purchase. And they gave me a list of items, suggestion. I went, okay, it was out of stock.
Yeah.
They knew that.
Yeah.
But AI communicated with me and gave me a coupon, if you will, a code, where if you 15% off. I went, at least they're trying here.
That's exactly right.
I was like, this never happened before, and I went, great job, Specialized. Is what I would say to them.
Yeah.
So that's what you're talking about, isn't it?
It is, but I think that kind of prompts some of the mistakes that I see retailers make, and that's okay. I have this technology; it's now deployed in my business. I'm done. Mm-hmm. It took a business strategy to use the technology in a scenario like what you just described that said, Mr. Wilson was looking for this product. We didn't have it today, but we set it up to where when a scenario like what Andy Wilson encountered, this is what we're going to say to him. Mm-hmm. We're going to recommend, tell them this item's out. This is when it will be back in stock. We're happy to message you when it comes back in stock. Wow, that's pretty personalized.
Exactly.
That's pretty, and they did it in such an efficient way. A human didn't have to go decide to send that email to Andy Wilson. It was the technology was constructed, set up, and configured to where in those scenarios, that's the message that you got in that case. And so many retailers don't, they think they have technology and they think they're done. No, the technology has to be tied to a business strategy, or in this case, a customer engagement strategy that says when something bad happens, we're not sending Andy to go shop someplace else. We're going to figure out how to serve him and potentially sell him some other complementary items in the near term that he might enjoy, so that we then have the opportunity to earn him his purchase on the big ticket item later on when it comes back into stock. That's pretty powerful stuff, but it requires a marrying of the business strategy with the technology, not just we deploy the technology and we're done. No, the two things have to work together.
Right. Yeah, I will tell you what happened.
Yeah.
And I'll just tell you the rest of the story.
Yeah.
Because I got that email, I was looking at competitors.
Yeah.
And so they had a local shop.
Yeah.
And so instead of looking at competitors, the next day I drove to the local shop and walked in and said, I received an email, this and that. I told him about it. They went, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And he said, let me double check to make sure you're on that list.
Yeah.
He did. He said, yes, we have it here.
Yeah.
And the local shop backed up the corporate. It's what happened. The local store.
Yes.
They backed it up. They had the information and confirmed with me personally then.
Yes.
That, we have that. And when that item comes back in stock, we will call you.
That's a pretty efficient technology. Yes. It's a pretty technology-enabled way to give you some pretty old-school customer service and do it in a way that costs them next to nothing, but I would dare to say meant everything to you.
Oh, everything.
That experience was now personalized to Andy Wilson, and by God, you are going to remember that experience.
Yes.
I mean, this is truly a part of the promise of omnichannel retail and the connection between what you experience online and what you experience in a store. And it was, to your point, a closed-loop experience that the person in the store confirmed what you experienced online because this technology was integrated and had a business strategy associated with it. And that wonderful example that you just shared doesn't happen every time.
No, and it's the first time it's ever happened. But I had an appointment with a competitor box shop to go look at this a similar product, and I didn't go.
Yes.
And I didn't.
So it kept you out of the hands of the competitor as well as engaging you, right?
Exactly. And I think, when I think about this personalization and then what you have taught us already this morning is that, and how powerful it is for retailers to embrace this. And like we said earlier, I think, this is a big company, but it got it all the way down to the local shop.
Yeah.
The people there.
Yeah.
And I had, you and I had some conversation about this, and you'd sent me some detail on it, and I went, oh my goodness, wow, Scott, what you're teaching us here is so valuable.
Yeah.
So,
and it is, I think, the biggest thing that I hope our listeners will take away is we think of personalization technology as an online aspect or online experience, but it impacted your store experience. And I think that's one of the things that's interesting is now personalization drives towards an in-store element as well as an online element. And this wonderful example you gave tied all of it together. And I would love to tell you that every retailer has mastered that, but regrettably, that would not be a case. It's also interesting that let's say that through that experience, the item that you were interested in wasn't available in a store, not because it was out of stock, but because it just wasn't part of the store assortment, because stores have physical boundaries. They only can hold so much merchandise. In some cases, that technology could be used to say, well, beyond what we carry in stores, we have this online-only item that's kind of specialized. It's not something we carry everywhere, but that might be the thing that solves your interest and your need, or maybe a different color or size or style that's not carried in physical stores, but it is carried online. And once again, that technology can be used to garner a sale that you as the retailer may have lost to a competitor. And I will tell you, one of the things I still see is I still get emails from retailers all the time, many of whom are retailers that we all know and respect, in which I get a generic, this is what we're sending, the same email to everybody.
Right.
And it's not either anything I'm interested in or it's not seasonally or contextually relevant. It's not something I'm shopping for right now. You just sent the same thing to everybody because the buyer, and obviously as a former buyer, I think buyers are wonderful people, but they can't possibly pick the right item for every individual or every individual's context. That's the thing I think is part of what's still kind of underutilized in this area of personalization. So,
Scott, so I think you've named it so well, this dynamic personalization.
Yeah.
It is dynamic when it works.
Indeed.
When you do it. What, as we wrap up, what advice do you have for our viewers today?
Well, I'll say this. I mentioned earlier that in many cases when a retailer or a brand deploys technology, they kind of think, okay, well, we're done. You're not done. Mm-hmm. Technology and a business strategy have got to work together. Mm-hmm. And so business leaders and technology leaders have got to think about how to deploy technologies like dynamic personalization with a strategy. You need to have a strategy of how you use this technology in a way that serves a consumer better and more effectively, and as a result, you'll generate more revenue and more loyalty. Mm-hmm. The example you gave, you're going to be loyal to that brand because of the wonderful digital experience that you have. So have a strategy for what technology you use and how you utilize it, and think end-to-end of how that impacts that customer experience, because what they offered you in the example that you gave not only was very personalized to you, but was very efficiently delivered. They didn't have to have a whole call center full of people to give Andy Wilson that wonderful experience. They used technology very efficiently and an asset they already had, the store, that you walked into, and you got such a wonderful experience enabled by this technology, but a strategy had to be the thing that drove it. Don't just think you can deploy a technology and you're done. Yeah. It has to have a strategy attached to it.
Great advice. Yeah. Great advice. Thank you so much, Scott. I've really enjoyed our time together today.
As have I. I really enjoyed it. It's a great topic, and I'm so glad that you had personal experiences that just reinforce that. So thank you, everyone, for joining Andy and I and listening today, and thanks for listening in on this latest episode of The Digital Front Door. I'm Scott Benedict. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.